Capes on the Couch podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Dr. Issues is a psychiatrist, but he is not your psychiatrist and does not have knowledge of your individual situation. For any personal mental health concerns, please consult your own healthcare providers. For medical emergencies, please call 911 or the designated number in your area immediately. Remember that you are not alone and help is out there.
Hello and welcome to Capes on the Couch for Come and Skit Counseling. I'm Anthony Sitko.
And I'm Dr. Issues.
This is issue number 124, Victor Zsasz, as selected by Ariel. No surprise there, since it is a Bat villain. And she has asked us once again to cover a member of the Rogues Gallery. Looking forward to this one. It's going to be an interesting one. Victor is a fascinating character.
Yeah, for anybody that's been interested in comics, knew of this character, and then took, let's say, an abnormal psychology class in college or in high school, this is definitely for you.
I never took any psychology classes or sociology or anything like that in college, not even one.
Wow.
And somehow I'm doing this show.
On one hand, that's surprising. On the other hand, not really. You have such varied tastes. I could have seen you taking any class. So you could have told me anything that you've taken or not taken, and it wouldn't really surprise me.
I honestly remember very little of college, and no, that's not an alcohol joke, because as Doc is well aware, I was straight edge. I was heel CM Punk straight edge. I was like, I am straight edge and that makes me better than you. It's a wonder I have anybody from college that still speaks to me, or even friends that I knew from high school that still speak to me after the kind of person that I was in college. Anyway, Erica Schultz's Kickstarter that, if you recall, we spoke to her 2 weeks ago. That is, as of the recording of this episode, over 90% fully funded. So if you haven't yet, go to Kickstarter.com, search for Deadliest Bouquet, or just check the show notes. We'll have a link in there, and you can get some pretty cool additional stuff. I have personally backed the book. I was a little disappointed, though, and I think I said this last week, that the opportunity to have myself drawn into the book sold out within like 20 minutes, and it wasn't even an option for me. So I'm still getting a physical copy of the book. So go check that out and support what is going to be a fascinating and wonderful story, even if you didn't grow up in New Jersey in the 90s like we did. So Victor Zsasz, created by Alan Grant and Norm Breyfogle in Batman Shadow of the Bat #1, June 1992. So Victor was a formerly wealthy man and the scion to a business empire, but when his parents died, when he was 25, he sank into a deep depression and eventually lost everything gambling. His last loss was to the Penguin in an underground gambling club. So as he was preparing to commit suicide, he encountered a vagrant who tried to rob him. And Victor said he realized the man was operating as a robot on base emotion and desire. And so he took the knife from the vagrant and killed him to free him, and then marked his body as the first of what would become many kills. As of in the original story, at that point, he's already at, I believe, 143 kills by the time we meet him. And he has only escalated since then. There is no MO to his selections. Although he does prefer to slice the neck, he will kill however he can and ritualistically mark his body for each kill. The number of kills must match the number of marks, though, because he stabbed Alfred at a dinner to get to Bruce Wayne. It had nothing to do with Batman. It had to do with Bruce Wayne. So he stabbed Alfred, and then he marked himself, only to discover Bruce had, of course, saved Alfred, and gave a press conference to that end. And once he realized that he had one additional mark, he said his skin was crawling because the tally was off. So we're going to delve into that shortly. So he's regularly confined to Arkham, inevitably escapes because Arkham has the worst security. We've talked about that ad nauseum. He's considered by Batman to be the nemesis he hates the most. And it's because Zsasz is simultaneously calculating in the way in which he kills, and also kind of random, and because he is without remorse. He is just a killing machine. He kills because he enjoys it. There's no joke. There's no fun. There's not really a theme. It's just, he is a pure killing machine. He is the great white shark of Gotham. And so he typically works alone. He does occasionally partner with other criminals. He was working with /for Black Mask at one point, and that was alluded to in the Birds of Prey movie. And during the War of Jokes and Riddles, he sided with the Riddler. So we're going to get into the issues because there's a lot to unpack. As far as the stories go, it's basically Zsasz escapes and starts killing, and Batman has to stop him. It's a situation where the stories are simple because the character is of a certain stripe. And that's not a denigration on Victor Zsasz. It's just a commentary on who he is as a person. He's very, I don't want to say one note because that makes it sound like I'm knocking him, but he's a killer. That's it. It's straightforward. So the first thing is he has a very nihilistic view of the world. It's everybody else is a robot. Everybody else is a slave. They're sheep, because life is meaningless if you're just operating on these base desires. And so he kills to give these people freedom as he sees it.
Yeah. So from that standpoint, I'm hesitating to say this because I don't mean this as an insult to anyone. But since we've now come up with the term woke, there's a risk there. You can end up so far on one end of the spectrum of things that you thought you knew and then had your mind blown, that now you view everything in the world from a lens that says not only was everything you thought in the past wrong, but is now somehow evil. And for some reason, anybody else that doesn't agree with you, but doesn't even come close to the intensity with which you now hold your view, they are now considered less significant. They're not worthy of your time. I'm putting it in that way because if we just go by the Zsasz motive, it's they're not worthy of life. And I don't want to just narrow it down because that makes it less relatable to all of us. So it's not that the other person deserves to be dead, but they're dead to me. And maybe it isn't even a matter of you having an awakening. It may just be the idea that you continue to evolve as a person and you feel like nobody else is coming with you for the ride. So that can lead to this dissonance that somehow, because people disagree with you, that means that you're starting to recognize that society as a whole is different from you. And you're now trying to grasp either with a few people that you still hang on to from your past that you consider to be valuable and important and you care for because of what they've done for you already, or people that you now have been introduced to. And because of that singular idea, or maybe it is a constellation of multiple ideas, doesn't have to be singular, that those the only way you're going to end up interacting with people in a positive light and everybody else gets thrown to the wayside. That makes life very difficult because you don't get to know everybody's strong positions with every interaction. If you're waiting in line for something, and mind you, for people that have just gone through the past several months with COVID, I know we have to get back into this for some of you, but still, if you can remember those times before then and the times we're going to have after this, when you're just waiting in line making small talk, you really aren't going to know another person's political views, religious views, their favorite sports team, all the things that are considered potentially hot button topics in an instant, unless they're truly doing something to demonstrate it in a way, either with their clothing or something that they say offhand. And even then, you may not want to get into that topic in the moment because you have other things on your mind. And yet, there are people in this world that think that if you're not talking about this one particular topic or this one particular subject that is so important and so vital, not that I'm disagreeing that there are certain issues that aren't important, but they make it every conversation and try to interject it in every conversation and don't understand why they're pushing people away. And that breeds its own contempt because now they have a decision as to how to interpret those interactions. Is it because I'm being too abrupt? Is it because I'm being a jerk? Well, that can't be because my values are now good and just in my own mind. Therefore, it's clearly the other person's problem. And because it's happening with multiple people, rather than making it an opportunity for the person to realize that it's something of themselves, it's something of the world. And you can now place yourself on a pedestal saying that I am the last bastion of everything that is right and just. And if you're not with me, then not only are you against me, but you're better off not existing.
Yeah. And so that's an excellent point. And I want to just immediately use that to segue into the next issue, because I did write down 4 of them. It's his ego to think of himself as a savior to others. So it's not just that he has this nihilistic viewpoint, it's that I'm the one who must free you. And to do so through the most violent act possible, killing another human being, is just, you're the professional. I'm just the other schlub with the microphone. I can't even wrap my logical brain around that kind of thinking. How in his mind, A necessarily goes to B. We're not even talking the same language here. And it rattles me to my core. But the ego, if you want to talk about that a little more and just, continue that line of thought, because again, it is I'm the one who sees, and we see this all the time. It's the Tyler Durden type, from Fight Club, the whole notion of the red pill, that, I see the truth behind the facade, and I'm the one who's going to help free these people. Even if you take out the killing, just the notion that I see this world for what it truly is, and all of you are sheep, all of you are robots. I mean, we see this and hear this on a regular basis on YouTube and social media channels. But talk about that ego a little bit more.
Sure. So it is healthy to have a bit of an ego. You need to want to exist. If you don't want to exist, it becomes its own problem, obviously. However, there does come a point where you can get to either near delusion or full delusional content where not only are you the hero of your own story, you're the hero of everyone's story. And once you have that framework, then it actually becomes fairly simple to understand. We have talked ad nauseum about the idea of power and why people would want it and the pros and cons of what goes with that. But what if you took that framework away where you're not trying to control things? You're just simply pointing out that you have the final say. That's all you care about. You don't actually care about how it affects other people. It's just purely the idea that when I talk, you listen, or when I say something, it gets done. That, not the idea that you are doing something that's considered good. There's a split. Victor has it that if you are gone, then somehow things will end up being better in the long run. That is above and beyond what anybody would consider besides war. But even then, war leads to the idea that, well, if I win, it's because other people are going to have a better situation than if we didn't fight in the first place. Victor doesn't really have evidence of that. Victor's evidence is the opposite from his own life. The idea that you just take things away, and that's the most powerful thing you can do. After all, his parents were taken from him, and it caused him to lose everything, as you said. So if that's the case, why on earth would he allow that to continue to happen in any way, shape, or form? When all he can do now is just take the one thing that he has determined he is good at, take the one attribute that he can ascribe to himself, as something that he is proficient, that he is voluminous, and just make sure that it is the one indelible mark that he can leave on society. No one questions when you say the name Victor Zsasz what it means. So for him, that is the ultimate tribute. So from that standpoint, who really cares? Yeah, being a savior to others, freeing others. The concepts of an afterlife may also be incredibly damning for him. Correction. It may be damning to others because it allows him to have an excuse. It's very similar to how some people with antisocial personality, let's say they are committing a theft and their point is, oh, well, it's a business write-off for the people we're robbing. You're trying to justify for someone else that they're going to have a good from the negative that you're accomplishing. And if you do that enough times, you start to believe it. Victor started with one of the most ultimate sins you can commit. I'm not even saying that in a religious sense, just one of the worst things you could do. And yet, because it saved himself, because he's being robbed, and because it justified the fact that he could remain alive, because he wanted to die, then he's made that ultimate indelible connection that my life, because it was spared by my own action, must be more important than anyone else's. And as long as I remember that, then I can continue to do this forever. Now you tell me how you're supposed to justify your own life to someone that actually has that mindset. Don't. By the way, don't do that.
I was going to say I can't, and I shan't. So like old Steve, no, I don't think I will. So the next thing, we're just sort of rolling through these quickly. The compulsion of the marks. I called them in the show notes. I said tattoos, but that's not actually it. They're scars. He cuts himself. So, and he references at one point, I forget who it is he's talking to. He says he does it to himself to remind himself that he is still human, but it is a compulsion. And we've had a couple of characters on here with OCD and other compulsive behaviors, but self-harm, combining the self-harm with the compulsion is a very, I don't want to say it's entirely unique, but is a very interesting and very rare combination to combine that degree of self-harm with the compulsion. So if you could dive into that a little bit.
Well, I would challenge a little bit that it's rare in the sense that I have seen several patients that have myriad cuts on their body and they are not patterned out the way Zsasz's are. And part of it is because of thoughts that they don't feel like they can control otherwise. We may not automatically equate it with OCD, and many times it's more related to the type of racing thoughts of self-doubt and even suicide and other things. And this is a form of tension relief. But even in that case, there are so many issues within this issue. I'm gonna tuck away the idea of, instead of them being scars, them being tattoos, because talk about tattoos is also its own fascinating topic. Just like kind of bookmarking that in my head for some episode later on down the road whenever we get to it. But to get back to what you were saying, the idea that you now have something that you have done for yourself and received the type of feedback, both physically in the moment, as well as the emotional response and release, the combination of somatic and emotional reactions to a single stimulus point is incredibly powerful. And we usually don't think of it in a singular act. We do enjoyable things, like let's say having a great workout session, you're sweaty, you're exhausted, you have some aches, but you know it was worth it. The endorphins are being released. You've made that connection, but it was over a period of time and you weren't automatically, many of us, automatically thinking that it was going to do that for you. Or other activities that we enjoy as humans, as biological creatures that I'm not going to get into in detail. But in this case, it's calculated with Victor. He knows that when he does that, he's going to have that response. And so the anticipation of it is also its own reward, knowing that that's going to happen and he's going to be able and get to do that to himself for that particular act. Knowing that you have it so perfectly synced up time after time. It's very rare that we can get that so immediate and so organized. That's not common. That's the part that's really strange to it. And now you can have it where you can have it tabulated. You don't need a spreadsheet for this. You don't need a hard drive. You don't need a manifesto. This is the definition of habeas corpus. He is really showing the body. There is no question about it. And then the point that you've mentioned in the background, what happens when it's disrupted? Then that creates significant emotional disturbance. For many people, if you have a compulsion, meaning something that you do repeatedly, and to the point that it interferes with whatever else it is that you need to do in your life, then that usually creates despair, it creates anxiety, can create depression. And even to the person, they may not understand why it's happening. With Victor, he does, because it's so directly connected with his other actions, which are so powerful. But many people with compulsions, that's not the case. And you actually have to delve in and find out what it is, if there is one, because you may not find out. So Victor has it so incredibly clean cut, that you don't have to question what it is or why it's going on. He makes it apparent. And that's the other thing. Many people are ashamed of the scars that they create or the things that they do. They try their best to do it at times where nobody's going to notice. They try and hide it. Victor doesn't know about that. He has no problem with everyone seeing what he's doing. That's another unique component to this. And it may actually, I hesitate to say it this way, it may assist in his quests because, as stated before with the other points, you know who you're dealing with if you see this guy. It doesn't matter if he were a killer or not. If you told me that someone was making intentional marks on their body to the point of being a count of some sort, and it's so prominent, and the person wishes to continue with that act, then you're going to recognize something is up, and you're going to know it right away.
Well, I hate to say this, but I think that about folks with obsessive amount of tattoos, like not a handful. And I have a good friend who's got like 30 tattoos. No, I'm talking about the folks that have them everywhere.
Okay. Since you brought that up,
like to the point that it's a part of their identity, that they have become like the face tattoos and the like their head to toe in ink. Like that's if I see somebody like that, that says something to me. And
it can. I don't want to just automatically say that, but the definition and the meaning behind the tattoos then is really important. Because
that is true.
We know people do this intentionally, and that certain tattoos have meaning and can have very strong, just outright evil meanings. But the idea that sometimes there can be hidden symbolism behind them until until other people know what they mean, not the person that got them, then that can be in another issue in and of itself. But like I said, I think I'm going to tuck that one away because that's something that could take up a lot of time. And I don't want to bog this down because there's a lot of other things that we're going to be talking about with Victor.
Okay. Well, then the last thing is that he kills because he enjoys it. And he says so repeatedly, that he thoroughly enjoys it. This is not somebody who's killing for humor purposes. There, as I said earlier, there's no theme. There's almost no rhyme or reason. He enjoys it. And I know the term sociopath it's not looked upon favorably by a lot of professionals, but the complete and utter disregard for human life that he displays with pride. It's not even that he does it because he has to. He does it because he likes it and because he wants to. And that's why Batman hates him the most.
I think you're right. And the idea that anyone gets to that point is incredibly disturbing. I think people can relate to the idea that if someone has killed your loved one and you want to get revenge, which is not just a comic thing. I mean, that's a life thing. It's part of the reason why the death penalty exists. It's part of the reason why gang wars happen. It's the reason why war happens. Who am I kidding? So that's something that people can relate to. When you disconnect the reasoning behind it, when you disconnect the idea of revenge or even self-defense, when you remove all of that and someone simply says they enjoy it, that it produces the type of emotional response that most other typical pleasurable things give to us, I'm not gonna lie. It takes a very special and unique person on very limited sets and tagging in and out with other professionals to even come close to try and understand this. And I have a very difficult time with this myself. So I'm not going to pretend and say that I understand it. I'm not going to pretend and say that I have a real base meaning behind it. I'm just going to point out that once again, because of circumstance, if you can equate a positive stimulus response to the antecedent of some event that gives you pleasure, then you can come up with some very weird connections. We think of just basic fetishes, and as you have said several times, you don't have to yuck someone's yum. But this is well beyond that, and there's no reasoning for it. There's no excuse for it. And if anyone actually says this, overwhelmingly, the times where patients I've heard even come close to, because not many say it, the times where I've heard people say it, it's more like they're doing it because they know it's going to get a reaction. They're trying to do some form of fear mongering, or just no other way to say it, just trying to screw with people around them and figure that if they say those things, it'll get people to leave them alone because they think that they're sociopaths, as you said. So it's much more of a manipulation than a reality. So thank goodness this is not as common as any form of media would have you believe. So do not think of this as the first line of why someone is doing something like killing. It's not. It really isn't. For all you criminal justice majors out there, you'll learn in your classes it isn't. Okay. But I think it says more about us as humans that we tend to block out these ideas, and heaven forbid someone brings it up. It's just the idea that we revile it that much. Not just Batman. We as a society, we revile that idea because we know that's how our extinction happens. If we ever get to the point where more than an incredibly few people get to this point, then we're doomed.
Well, it's a combination of that and social contract theory, just the idea that, you can't go around doing things. You can't go around doing anything that you want all the time, especially not killing. Like that's, again, where the social contract comes into play, that we are all collectively agreeing to the set of rules that we have created for ourselves in order to have a functioning society. One of which is don't kill another person. Self-defense and so on and so forth. We understand that there are occasionally some caveats to that, but by and large, we acknowledge that that's like one of the biggest clear-cut rules you can have. And yet we continually, not as individuals, but we collectively violate that on a daily basis. And to your point, if more than just the very, very small handful of us do decide to say, screw it, I'm just doing what I need to do for me, and I'm willing to cross that line if it comes to it, we're done for. Then it's the purge. And I don't want to live in that world. I know you don't either.
That's right.
And I'm going to go out on a limb and say that our listeners don't either.
Yep.
Ugh. It's rough stuff. So We're going to take a break. When we get back, we're going to get into whatever sort of treatment one can envision for Victor Zsasz, both in universe and out of universe. So stay tuned. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. Is there something interfering with your happiness or preventing you from achieving your goals? BetterHelp will assess your individual needs and match you with a licensed professional therapist. You can begin communicating within 48 hours.
It isn't a crisis line. It's not self-help. It's professional counseling done securely online. BetterHelp has a network of over 15,000 counselors with a broad range of expertise. You can log in and message your counselor anytime and get timely and thoughtful responses. You can also schedule regular video or phone sessions. No waiting room required.
BetterHelp is committed to facilitating great therapeutic matches, so they make it easy and free to change counselors if you feel you don't have a good connection. It's more affordable than traditional offline counseling, and financial aid is available. BetterHelp wants you to start living a happier life today. Visit betterhelp.com/capes. That's better HELP, and join the over 1 million people taking charge of their mental health with the help of an experienced professional.
Special offer for Capes on the Couch fans. Get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/capes.
Hi, I'm one of the High Priests of Khonshu Ray, and I have the sacred privilege of providing you, the loony listener, with a podcast honouring Marvel's very own Moon Knight. So join me and a host of others at Into the Night, a Moon Knight podcast. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, or support the show by becoming a Patreon member. Into the Night, a Moon Knight podcast. It's time to get your Khonshu on.
Hi, I'm Gail Simone, and you're listening to Capes on the Couch.
And we're back. Doc is teasing some very interesting and unique in-universe treatment for Victor Zsasz, and I am here for it. I don't know what it is. He hasn't told me. He just said, I'm going to be very intrigued.
So I'm going to start this with a little bit of a story. So if you know me and you have any obsessive traits, you like things a certain way, you have to have things organized, you have to have, things neatly lined up, whatever. Don't tell me that. Because even before I was a psychiatrist, I loved messing with that. And there is a part of me, especially in a comic book universe, that wants to bring that over to Victor. Obviously, I don't want to put myself in harm's way, and I'd have enough people around. Victor sure has a lot of marks on him, and we know what those marks mean. So there's this procedure called electrolysis, and the whole point is it's usually designed for either hair or there is a way to reverse tattoos. And it is used as a way to minimize scarring. So what on earth happens if Victor's tally is wrong? We already know that brings some cognitive dissonance. But what if it would be the fact that you're removing them? What happens then? You have to make the marks correct, right? How many do we remove? 2, 3, 4, 10, 20? What would that mean to him? I mean, he doesn't have supernatural powers. He's not bringing people back to life, and I wouldn't ask him to. Heaven forbid Victor Zsasz read the Necronomicon. But does that mean he has to save lives? Does that mean he has to change lives for the better? I don't know. Maybe that's the thing that we would discuss. But doggone it, even if it means that I'm ripping off pieces of his skin under surgical management, then doggone it, we're going to find out what happens when Victor has the wrong number on his body.
That is a dickish move, and I love it.
Thank you. I greatly appreciate that.
I don't know how he would legitimately respond to that.
Neither do I.
Because it has been shown in the comics that he will pause if shown incredible compassion. Leslie Tompkins in No Man's Land, and we spoke with Dr. Travis Langley a while back about Leslie Tompkins and how, I appreciate her as a character. I think I would love to delve into her one of these days. She is so committed to her pacifism and her compassion that she gets Victor to at least pause before he continues, to try to kill her. And he's ultimately subdued by, I I think it's Killer Croc, because Killer Croc is one of the only people who actually appreciates what Dr. Tompkins is doing. But I don't know that he would ever go to save people to match the tally on his body. And unfortunately, I don't recall what he does when he realizes that his tally is off with Alfred. But I don't think he possesses that innate level of concern, as we were discussing, that attachment to humanity, because it literally doesn't occur to him. It's that whole evil cannot comprehend good. Like, he does not understand why people do good things, because it doesn't mesh with his mindset.
Which is why, in order to break that barrier, you may have to rip the Band-Aid off. And that may be the only way to do that.
Literally ripping the Band-Aid off, ripping the skin off.
Yep.
Very interesting viewpoint. Now, out of universe, there's nothing supernatural about Victor, but I don't think you could get away with that kind of treatment.
Hell no.
For a real person.
Not a chance. No way. No way. Not advocating that one bit. Come on, people. It's a like I said.
I understand that. So what would your treatment be then? And is that something that you would even personally feel comfortable doing? Because I know that you have limits, and you have said before previously on the show that there are certain cases, certain types of patients that you acknowledge your personal limitations on, and you are not comfortable treating because it would be too impactful on you on a mental and emotional level. But if it came to it and you had to treat somebody even akin to a Victor Zsasz, how would you go about doing it?
Making sure that they understood the consequences of their actions are meant for the betterment of society, which may be in direct conflict with that particular person's schema of how the world works. And doing so in a confined environment, aka prison, because in no way, shape, or form should I ever think that mental health should be criminalized. I think that's a horrible thing. But I do think that criminal activity should be criminalized, and sometimes we miss the mark on that. I know when we did the Mental Health Avengers episode, we talked about pretty much how much of our system, especially in the United States, has things a bit backwards, and it's a shame. I think a case like this, or with anyone that's considered a serial killer or has done multiple murders or things of that nature, and we don't understand the reasoning behind it, I think the first thing is making sure society is safe in the proper way, and then finding out what we can do. And I'm not saying that from a lack of compassion. I'm saying that, ironically, with the most compassion. I'm saying I want to make sure that person recognizes that we're not going to downplay the severity and seriousness of what has happened and why they're in that circumstance. What can we do now? Because ironically, as we have been discussing with Zsasz, this is an example from I believe, former Navy SEAL, Jocko Willink. He wrote a book called Discipline is Freedom. And in this case, this is the ultimate discipline, providing perhaps the only level of freedom that the person can understand. You're going to have a routine. You're going to have to find for yourself what the meaning is when you have, for example, a life sentence, because you're not getting forgiven for, from a societal standpoint, for what you've done. And that doesn't mean that I think any less of that person, even if I have my own biases against that person. It means that I know that I have to work 10 times as hard to find the basic parts that I know that are considered good and decent for that person to be alive, and for that person to find it in themselves that they could do something different than what they've done before. In other words, not, for example, so many people, when they're in these circumstances, end up blaming everyone around them. It just becomes a justification loop of why they would do what they did for the sake of themselves, even if they do say it's for the sake of others, it's helping them understand that, no, it really was for the sake of yourself. And that's okay, because it's okay for you to do something for yourself that doesn't necessarily damage other people. As you said, if the idea is that evil doesn't recognize good, then maybe it's the idea that evil can recognize neutral first. And you're being put in the ultimate neutral setting, along with a lot of other people that are considered evil. And if you can at least recognize that some of those evil people are neutral, now you're creating at least there's some sort of difference. And if you're creating a difference, then at some point you could start manipulating all of those differences to find something good. it's incredibly optimistic in my view, because once again, and I apologize for the change of tone in my voice because I feel a certain way and I'll admit that, but that doesn't mean I wouldn't try. That doesn't mean anybody else wouldn't try. And I'm going to make a recommendation for a podcast. I don't remember the particular episode. It's of Tim Ferriss. He actually went to a prison of people who are in there for life or extended periods of time. And some of them may get parole, some of them may not. But he had very long conversations with them, and they were willing to do the interview to demonstrate the adaptations and changes they've made and how they actually want to do good for society and are talking about the good that they are doing even while in prison. And it was incredibly uplifting because it reminded myself, and if you listen to it, I think everybody else, it reminds you of no matter where someone is, they're still a human being. And if you can remember that, then you don't have to let your mind wander to some very dark places about what you want to do to people that have done some very evil things. And if you can do that for yourself, while still advocating for the fact that those people deserve the punishment and justice that we have considered adequate. And I'm not getting into the mishmash of the death penalty and things like that. That's not what I'm getting at. But just recognizing that life has its own consequences for its actions. And if you're willing to work within that construct, that you still can have some form of positive outcome in the worst of circumstances, then maybe that's it. And for anybody that knows someone, because that's the other part to this, that person that we consider a psychopath and sociopath and all of that, they had a family once, they had parents, they had people that maybe still do care about them, and they suffer as that person suffers. And if you can remember those people, and maybe it's a matter of recognizing that if you are taking the effort to help them and that family recognizes that someone still cares outside of themselves, that it provides them the means to have a better life. Maybe that's the goal. And that keeps the therapist going too. So there you go.
Fascinating. Very cool. And yes, I do think it's incumbent upon us to remember the human in everything. And that's one of the things that bothers me so much about so much of this discussion on social media and in the news and everything. As political as things have gotten these days, I think we tend to otherize everybody. We otherize them. We view them as human beings as long as they're on our side, whatever that is for a particular issue. But as soon as they disagree, they become otherized. And it really bothers me. It really hurts me deep down. I don't know what the cure is, so to speak. I don't know what the fix is for that. But one can only hope that at some point we stop otherizing, because that's how connections happen and that's how progress happens. I think as long as we all understand on some level that we're all trying to make things better, even if we may disagree on the methods, that as long as you acknowledge that everyone around you is trying to do the best that they can, honestly and sincerely, do the best that they can with what they've got, I think we can all stand to give ourselves and other people a break.
Well said.
So we are going to move along now and see what happens when we get Victor Zsasz on Dr. Issues' couch.
Hello, Victor. I'm Dr. Issues.
Hello, Doctor. And which professional school of therapy do you subscribe to? You appear to be too modern for Skinner or Freud. I peg you for Beck, man.
Well, for CBT, it's more Albert Ellis, but yeah, I appreciate your guesses. I find locking myself into one particular mindset does a disservice to my patients. No one fits neatly into a set of labels.
Oh, but that's where you're wrong, Doctor. The overwhelming majority of people walking this earth are zombies, sheep, slaves, if you'll pardon the term. They know nothing of free will or independence. It's my job to free them from their prisons.
Ironic that a man confined under lock and key talks about freeing others.
Well, as Dean Martin once said, life's really funny that way. and I do enjoy a good laugh.
I wouldn't have pegged you for a Rat Pack guy. And even then, I would have gone with the chairman. But you know what? Enough banter. What's with the killing?
So my intuition let me down for once. I figured this was more of a chess match, feeling each other out. But you delivered the first blow. So be it. I want to save the world.
That's so off the beaten path.
You try to be hard-nosed, get to the point, then backtrack when I show my hand. You definitely are an eclectic man.
How am I supposed to believe that you want to save anyone when you end their existence and keep score?
It's actually very easy once you see all of the pieces lined up properly. Who is it? Sherlock Holmes, I think. When you have eliminated all of the possibilities, the only remaining one must be the answer, no matter how improbable.
So that means I'm supposed to follow you down the rabbit hole to see how you came to that conclusion.
It's only natural.
Living is natural.
So is death.
So is survival, struggle, resistance, challenge.
And defeat, despair, inevitability, pain.
It's all a part of the human experience. And all can be healed except death. You bring people to that conclusion way too quickly.
You must be familiar with hospice, Doctor. Imagine if you knew that everything is coming to an end sooner than you think. How would you live those final days? Would you really be pushing papers and worrying about binary code on a screen with visual inputs to dull your brain? Or would you maintain intimacy with those closest to you? Wouldn't you want to spend every waking hour with those you care about? Now imagine you could have that life right now without the agony of breathlessness or your body riddled with tumors. The freedom to have all the urgency without the suffering of losing your mind to dementia. I grant that freedom, and I do it graciously.
The best and worst part of that diatribe is that I find myself resonating with any part of it. It means that we have some sort of connection. Yeah, I'm going to chalk it up to the fact that both of us remain human on a base level and nothing more.
I'm glad to let you dip your toe into the water. Now, do you have the courage to dive in?
Are you really trying to remain civil when discussing this? Because as polite as I may sound, I'm actually disgusted.
Oh, don't show faux disgust when you just admitted that you have a twisted mind. The kind of mind that most don't understand. Let me in.
Yeah. You're really trying to make this that kind of session, where I get so empathetic that I misplace my ethics. You're not even close. I'm not going to be an added mark on your visceral scorecard.
Oh, you finally get to it. I'm impressed. Usually therapists comment within the first 30 seconds of meeting me. What took you so long?
It's an obvious thing. I figured you were tired of people asking, so I wasn't going to do it for the millionth time. I wonder though, what happens when you have no more space?
There are ways. In fact, there's one area that I keep a hidden set of marks that no one knows about.
I'm not that kind of doctor, so.
Oh, don't be so childish. That's not what I meant. Just a few spots that I have left over. So I savor those occasions a little bit extra. You know who I'm talking about.
Batman.
Exactly.
But I've noticed something, and when I read your chart, you don't obsess over what hasn't happened yet. You go over what you've already done. Again and again. It sounds droll to you, but dull to me.
Then I can make it droll to you. There's one mark that's incredibly special to me. It's my most cherished. In fact, without it, I don't think I can go on like this. It would absolutely devastate me if anything happened to it.
Fascinating. Perhaps we can delve into that specific case. Who was it?
This is embarrassing. 1, 2, 3.
What are you doing?
I can't tell you about that mark until I actually get to it. 47, 48, 49. Yes. Here, come quick. I can show you. Here on my arm.
Oh, wow. Okay. Then let me just.
You foolish man. You walk into your own demise for the sake of pitiful transference? I'll have you know I have made it my personal mission to maintain my strength through a series of isometric exercises. There is no way that you can escape my grasp. Tell me, is it true what they say about your life passing before your eyes?
I wouldn't know.
How?
Ooh, who knew doing Tough Mudders for fun and having some self-defense training for acute care situations would come in handy so well? Crud. All right, we got to call a medical consult. I may have injured something here, and there's blood somewhere.
There will be more blood when You don't cut your nails. You scratched me. Do no harm indeed, but No, it touches another. No, it's wrong. It's wrong. The count is wrong. You're not dead, but your scar is with me. This is not the way.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. I got it. But next time, can just have the injection ready, or
ahead of listening. Are you really just going on about your day as if you haven't destroyed the balance of my being? This is on your head. You will never get forgiven. You will never be forgiven. Yours will be swift when you least expect it. Get that needle away from me. I will not have my body defiled. You are all monsters. Restraints mean nothing to me. I'm the one training for the Tough Mudders, but apparently you managed to maintain some sort of muscle memory.
Dude, we actually do get certain defenses, like including how to take someone out of your grasp if they grab your wrist, how to do things if someone attacks you from behind, how to put someone in a proper PRT hold. Yeah, we learned some things.
You have to teach me some things then.
These classes are available online. Like you don't need me. Plus, I'm not credentialed to do the training.
No, but this will be fun. It'll be like that when we were in high school. We used to do wrestling holds on each other. It's like, see if you can break out of the Texas cloverleaf.
Yeah, fair enough. Actually,
putting the sharpshooter on you on the lawn, or
there's
figure four.
There actually are some MMA fighters that have like their own YouTube channels or whatever that demonstrate wrestling holds and how legit they are and whatnot. But yeah, it's all in good fun. Unlike someone. By the way, if anybody's wondering, no, if someone actually has you in that type of chokehold, there's a good chance that if you don't get out of it within like the first second, that you may die. So no one is doing a soliloquy or anything like that and then surviving it by getting out of the hold. Just to let people know.
I think they've come to understand that after 120 plus episodes that we're just talking about wrestling. It's all fake.
Hey, we're always getting new people. Remember,
this is true. But I'm saying, even if they go, 124 episodes. All right. Anyway, recommended reading for this week is Batman: The Last Arkham. It's that first 4-issue story within the Shadow of the Bat. So you can check it out on DC Universe Infinite, or you can check out the trade paperbacks. I'll have a link to it in the show notes. Next episode is Rogue. And then we're going on a little break for the rest of June. And we'll come back in July, and we'll be talking Black Widow to tie in with the movie. But Doc and I will be taking a few weeks off to just sort of rest, recover. I've got a vacation planned. I'm sure Doc will do something fun and watch some basketball playoffs. So as always, you can find all of our episodes on our website, capesonthecouch.com, along with the long box view, which is the column by Ariel, who's the one who recommended Victor Zsasz. And we're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Capes on the Couch. If you listen to us on a platform that allows you to rate and review our shows like Apple Podcasts or Podchaser, please leave us a rating and review. And if you leave us a rating and review and then email us at capesonthecouch@gmail.com with a screen cap of that review, we will send you a sticker as a way to say thank you, because we do appreciate all of the reviews that we get from our fans. Like this one from Julio Oliveira, was not expecting such a serious, in-depth conversation about cloning in comics. The show definitely stands out from the crowd thanks to its sober approach to superhero stories and their elements without ever getting didactic or losing sight of how fun comic books are. Big fan of this concept. Reminds me of a panel I saw at San Diego Comic-Con once, applying real-world psychology to fictional fantastical situations. Definitely worth checking out. So thank you, Julio, for the very kind words. As we say all the time, we take the concepts seriously, but never ourselves. So we try and find that good mixture that keeps it fun and entertaining. If the day ever comes in which we start to take ourselves seriously, then we're done with the show and we're doing it wrong.
Amen to that. Which reminds me, so we've been talking about all this stuff with Victor Zsasz and these marks and all that stuff. I'm surprised he never tried kind of like the keloid tapping in African cultures to get the bumps raised, or, even adding color like a tattoo or whatever, all those sorts of things, because I really think he could use some pizzazz.
And there's the puns that Doc is known for. Ba-dum-bum. For Doc Issues, I'm Anthony Sitko. Thanks for listening. We will see you next week.
Capes on the Couch podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Dr. Issues is a psychiatrist, but he is not your psychiatrist and does not have knowledge of your individual situation. For any personal mental health concerns, please consult your own healthcare providers. For medical emergencies, please call 911 or the designated number in your area immediately. Remember that you are not alone and help is out there.